Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's episode of Miracle Conversations. We are in July of 2023, and I'm here with Dr. Dave Asomaning. But first, I'll introduce myself. My name is Brittany New, for anyone who's new here, and I am an entrepreneur living in Barcelona, Spain, originally from Los Angeles. And I'm here with Dr. Dave Asomaning. So, Dave, why don't you introduce yourself for anyone who's new here, new to the podcast or the show?
Hi, Brittany. Thank you for that intro. And we'll go into things a bit more deeply about you in a little bit. I think it's good for our audience to know. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I live in Florida and I'm an executive coach with a focus on miracle mindset work. So everything that we do on this show and everything I do in my business is about miracle mindsets for CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs, and other leaders. And it's my firm and growing conviction that miracle mindset work leads to improved effectiveness, ease, and fulfillment in the professional and personal lives of the leaders I work with. So, thank you, Brittany, for hosting this and being my sidekick, helping me to not be too lonely on this show and making it more interesting for our audience. Sometimes I'll explain your role and I'll say, oh yeah, Johnny Carson, the great host of The Tonight Show, he had Ed McMahon, I guess was his name. I think that was his name. He had him as a sidekick, and I just think it's a great idea. So if that's not feeling too guyish, mannish, having a sidekick, that's it's nice to have a buddy for the process. So let's see. We have been doing this now. We are coming up on the end of our third year doing this show together once a month. And I have so much gratitude to you, Brittany, about this because, as I usually say, we've evolved in a very miracle-minded kind of way where you started out helping me with some worksheets, you beautified those worksheets, you made them more professional. Then you helped edit some video modules for me from my online course, which follows what would then become the book. And then we evolved into you helping me using your incredible talents and skills with our monthly show, this show, where we now have a video podcast, an audio podcast, and a blog. And you post everything in all the different places. It's just amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you for the miracle you are around that. And anything you want to say about where people can find you?
Thank you so much for that shout out, Dave. It's a pleasure doing this show for me as well. So you can go to my website, brittanynew.com. I also have a YouTube channel with some tutorials on how people can take ownership of their media and use technology to kind of automate some of the things they're doing in business. So Dave's got an online course that's an automated way for him to help more people and at a larger scale. So that's something that I help people with as well. Any way to use media to kind of work for us, which is extra trendy right now with all the AI tools emerging, things that I'd similarly already been using for many years. But I'm glad that everyone's also seeing how this works in the day-to-day. But going back to the show, yeah, it's a pleasure doing this with you every month, and it's a really inspiring community here that we're working and building, and I really enjoy being your sidekick. You are the expert. You've got this book and this community that you've built over the past, how many years? You said back when they were cassette tapes in use, as we were just talking about.
In the prep for the show.
Yeah, in the prep of the show.
Tapes, yeah. 99 is when I started formally with the business, but I've been doing this probably, I was in a play in college, and my write-up in the play said, one of my favorite things to do is heart-to-heart talking with other people.
Aww.
So I was 18 years old or 19 years old, and I've been doing this heart-to-heart process.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, for a long time since then. So, yeah.
It's
Thank you.
clear to see that this is a passionate career for you and that you're very passionate about miracles. And I've heard your journey as you've gone through school and studied theology and different things, and it led you to where you are now, which is your bread and butter miracle mindset. So that's what we're going to talk about today, as every month. And yeah, I guess I can introduce some basics of the show. Again, if you're new here, we every month talk about some different aspect of miracle mindsets. A lot of it comes from a book called A Course in Miracles. And this year in particular, we are also talking about Dave's book, which is called Nightmares to Miracles. It's available on Amazon. And we kind of sync up a chapter from his book with a lesson from A Course in Miracles. And every year we have a theme, a different theme. So this year the theme is the ubiquitous miracles. And starting in November, we will be getting a new theme. So definitely stay tuned with us to see what new branch of topics we decide to go into. But it's always going to be something to do with miracle mindsets. This year, we're just going deep into the principles of miracles, essentially. So that's kind of the lead up to the show. I think maybe Dave, you'd like to lead us into the lesson or whatever else you have to add for intro.
Okay, sure. Great
Okay,
intro. Love it.
thanks.
So I might add also that the theme miracles for this year came to us through you, Brittany. You recommended it, and it made complete sense, and we just went with it, and it's been very rewarding to do that as the theme. In past years, we've had words like forgiveness as the theme or atonement as the theme. We've done peace and light. We've had a number of different one word themes over the years. So I'm excited to see what comes up for this coming year. And I've begun to put it out to the people who are on some of the mastermind calls with me on this to see what surfaces for people. So today we are doing lesson 92. And before I do that, I might also add that I personally have been going through the whole year with lesson 47. God is the strength in which I trust. I just found enormous comfort in that affirmation, and then in the lesson that's related to that affirmation. And I'm even thinking I might travel with that for another whole year in this next go around. But I use it every day, morning, noon, and night. It's very comforting and compelling and empowering for me. So just wanted to put that out there. It's kind of a hint. It's sort of something that anyone can do. You can take anything you want to travel with and just go real deep with it for 6 months or a year. And so we'll get to a little bit more of that with this final chapter of the book. So yeah, so today we're doing lesson 92. And last month we did 91. And when we were prepping, Brittany, you said, oh, are we doing 91? I think we did that, right? Are we doing a continuation of 91? And very perceptive on your part, because lesson 92 has, as its first part, what we covered last month in lesson 91. So for lesson 91 last month, we treated miracles are seen in light. That was the capstone affirmation. Miracles are seen in light. And then lesson 92 adds, miracles are seen in light, and light and strength are one. And light and strength are one. So it might not seem like an earth-shattering addition to what we did last month, but let's give it a shot. See what comes up out of our kind of a quick but intense reading of lesson 92. So just a recap on 91. So lesson 91 was really about something I referred to as referred to elsewhere in the course as level confusion. Right? So level confusion in its simplest form means that we think that reality is on the outside of us and is in the field of perception, and all the things that we see, my computer, the Zoom call, my phones, the palm trees outside, that's what's real, and that my body's connection to this external world is what's real. And the Course teaches over and over and over and over again that we confuse the levels. We're watching a movie and it's just as passive for us with our lives floating by us as watching an actual movie. And that reality is buried deep inside of us and is of a spiritual nature that has nothing to do with the body's eyes. Right? So that was a big point that lesson 91 was trying to establish for us, that we want to undo level confusion because the light that helps us to see clearly and to see miracles is on the inside. It's not on the outside. It has nothing to do with physical light. So that was in a nutshell what was going on with lesson 91. Miracles are seen in light. Course was just redirecting us to the source of light and helping us to get clear that light is not the physical light we see with the body's eyes. Now, in sort of workshopping this lightly in other places, I think the question came up, and it was a helpful question. Someone said, so, well, but when I misplace something, I need physical light to see it. You know, if it falls underneath the car seat or behind the sofa or something underneath the sofa cushions, I need light. And the moment I turn the light on, I see it. And it's, so how are you telling me that that's not something that's good or powerful or real? And I'm saying, oh, okay, well, that's a great question. So my attempt at responding to that was to say that the physical world and all the things we see in the physical world, including light and how we use light to help us, is all part of an elaborate movie, or if you prefer, you can switch to the metaphor that it's a nightmare, right? And I especially like the metaphor of nightmare to explain this part of what we're addressing, because with a nightmare, we can have all kinds of things in it that seem real. A car's chasing us, somebody's chasing us with a gun, we're stuck behind a door and we can't get out, or we're drowning, whatever it is. But when we wake up, all of that just evaporates. It's not actually real, and we understand it to have not been real within the sleep state. And there's an enormous sense of relief that, oh my God, I'm so glad it wasn't real. None of it was real. So in that sense, even though we can use not just different forms of light to illuminate things when we're in darkness in the physical world, there are all kinds of other tools we use, computers that we're using, cassette tapes that we used to use that have become DVDs and MP3s now. But the point is that they're all illusions compared to this awake state that's within, where we get access to real tools for helping us through things. So let me pause here, and then we'll just say a few more things maybe about lesson 91, then we'll get into 92 proper. Anything you want to comment on at this point?
No, thanks for answering that question about the light and the illusion of pretty much everything in the physical world. I think it's a challenge to stay rooted in the terminology that we're talking about because it's so counter everyday, reality. So I acknowledge that even sometimes I'm in this context and I forget that we're not talking about the literal sense a lot of the time. So it's good to kind of always get that reminder again and make that second nature. Even as you go throughout your day, it helps. Like, oh, this experience that's happening to me, it's not real. It's just part of this nightmare that's going on.
Beautifully
Yeah.
said. Beautifully said. And I just feel the power of what you've shared around this idea that it's so easy to slip back into reacting to what we see in the external world of perception as the thing that's real, and then fighting with it or trying to conquer it or master it or maneuver around it or something. And the only reason that I've been so in love with this, and it keeps working from where I stand for me and in my work with clients, is that it actually works over the long haul. The results it brings by going inside and using all this stuff to wake up from the different nightmares, it's so incredible. It's like, oh, it works. That's the only reason. I'm not trying to prove some intellectual thing or don't want to defend it. The only reason for me that it's exciting is that it leads to deeper illumination that reduces suffering, increases peace, reduces scarcity, increases abundance, and so on. So thank you for what you said. Beautiful. I'm glad we have that. We have that on tape. So I can't stop, can I? With the joke about the tape. Anyway, so here we go. Let's go into a few sections of lesson 92 and just add a little bit more texture to what I think it's adding to lesson 91, right? So the first paragraph sets the tone. It says, the idea for today is an extension of the previous one. That's lesson 91. You do not think of light in terms of strength and darkness in terms of weakness. That is because your idea of what seeing means is tied up with the body and its eyes and brain. Thus you believe that you can change what you see by putting little bits of glass before your eyes. This is among the many magical beliefs that come from the conviction you are a body and that the body's eyes can see. You also believe the body's brain can think. If you but understood the nature of thought, you could but laugh at this insane idea. It is as if you thought you held the match that lights the sun and gives it all its warmth, or that you held the world within your hands, securely bound until you let it go. Yet this is no more foolish than to believe the body's eyes can see, the brain think, right? So sometimes we've already kind of addressed this a little bit about the fact that the reason the Course is so gung-ho about this is that everything that's going on in the illusion that the body thinks is concrete and real is just all part of a dream. When we wake up, it evaporates, and the reality that we become more and more alive to is on the inside, and it's non-physical, right? It's spiritual in nature. So sometimes clients will say something like, well, yeah, this is all interesting, but I need medication to get into action or to overcome depression or to overcome anxiety. And the medication really changes how I feel and how I think. And I'm saying, yeah, but that's all. I'm not down on medicine. I'm not down on doctors or surgery or any of that. But it still fits with this paradigm we're talking about, which is that within the system of the nightmare, the medication can block the parts of us that channel aggression or depression or sort of the ADHD. The point I'm making here is that the mental activity is actually coming from a transmitter in sort of the universe that's not physical. It's coming from a place like a radio station emits thoughts, and then the brain is the radio that captures those transmissions, right? So I hadn't intended to do this, but we were on one of the calls where we kind of hashed this out a bit. Everyone got into a groove where everybody was talking about the fact that, man, sometimes ideas will just flash into my head, and they don't come from anywhere. I don't know where they come from. They just pop up. And yeah, that's the void that so many religions and spiritual paths talk about, right? There's a void where there is nothing physical per se, but it is our source that gives rise to our thoughts. They are divine thoughts until they become sort of co-opted by the ego. So anyway, the basic point it's making here is that, yeah, we are convinced that the physical realm is required for us to think and see and behave, but it's not. It tries to talk about, what are basically either glasses for vision or reading glasses, but it's kind of interesting. And then it uses this word foolish. And again, the person teaching here is Jesus. So I always feel as though he pulls the foolish card in the Course in Miracles whenever he's trying to be a bit funny, right? So he says things that seem patently ridiculous to us, and then he calls us foolish because we're not having it a lot of the times. It takes a lot of repetition for this, as you mentioned, Brittany, to become compelling to us. So anyway, that's the first part of what this lesson, I think, is adding. It's going deeper into this upside down nature, that what I was calling level confusion, but it's using examples. there's just one, maybe one or two more things I'm going to touch on before we close out on this. It's a quick landing. Anything you want to comment on at this point?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
All right. So the thing that I want to go to here, the two things I want to mention to pull all of this together for today, in terms of what I think this lesson is adding, is that there is a passage in here. Let me see if I can find it really quickly. Where the basic idea here, even if I can't find it, I can sort of paraphrase what it's getting at. It's really, the lesson is referring to this place in the invisible realm where we can go through meditation, and we'll touch on the meditation part in just a moment, where all the different powers meet. So miracles meet with light, meet with strength, and then I just kept going with it, like wisdom and vision and power and abundance and love. And there's a place where we can go and all those things are meeting with one another. It just happens that to be in the headline that it's using uh, light and strength. But you get the sense from reading the actual rest of the lesson that it's talking about the meeting of so many different things, right? So let me see if I could just take a quick minute to find that. It was really quite an interesting discovery. Um, okay, here we go. So this is in paragraph 9. It says, "The strength in you will offer you the light and guide your seeing so you do not dwell on idle shadows that the body's eyes provide for self-deception. Strength and light unite in you, and where they meet, yourself stands ready to embrace you as its own. Such is the meeting place we try today to find and rest in, for the peace of God is where yourself, God's child, is waiting now to meet itself again and be as one." Right? So that's the passage. Upon reading it and rereading it in the context of this headline for today, where it adds um, light and strength are one, it's talking about the unification, tapping into the unification of all these different seemingly disparate forces. And it's almost like you just get such a bump up in power, right? So the last thing I want to highlight for today from this before we turn our attention away from this passage is this section here, where there's always some kind of in these lessons especially, there's always some kind of practical uh, recommendation for us. So here it goes. It says in paragraph 10, "Let us give 20 minutes to twice today to join this meeting. Let yourself be brought unto yourself. Its strength will be the light in which the gift of sight is given you. Leave then the dark a little while today, and we will practice seeing in the light, closing the body's eyes and asking truth to show us how to find the meeting place of self with a small s and self with a big S, where light and strength are one." Right? So this elaborates further that what this lesson is adding to last month's lesson is to go deep into this meditation process to connect with all these different aspects that empower us, right? And it was really quite interesting. It was like, oh, I can just keep adding more things, to the list. And it was a kind of an exciting discovery. I might hesitate to add before I turn the mic over to you for any further thoughts on this before we go to the book, that the Course is not down on the body, right? The body is not evil. It's not a bad thing. At worst, it's limited in some ways, right? But what really is lurking behind all these somewhat sinister references to the body is the malicious ego, the thing that wants to seduce us into believing in illusions around the body rather than digging deeper into spirit. So it always just helps to, I think, to articulate that Course is not down on the body. Body is not bad. Course is very assertive about the fact that the malicious ego is dangerous and wants to harm us, wants to kill us, wants to torture us. And so, the body is neutral at best and at worst is kind of limited, but is not evil. All right. Any thoughts on your end, and then we'll go to the book.
Yeah, just a quick question. So, the distinction between the small self and the big S self, is that like a physical self and a spiritual self, or what was that?
Yeah, so I think that the small self, one way I think about it is that it's talking a little bit about the way a wave is in the ocean. So the big self is the whole ocean, but each individual wave that pops up is like the self with the small s, and the whole ocean is the one with the big S. Or sometimes it's easier to think of dolphins. Dolphins are those small s's. They jump out, they jump back in, they jump out, but they wouldn't exist and they couldn't do what they were doing without the big S, right? So I think what that section, great catch on your part, what that section is really about is that we have a conscious understanding of the unification of these two parts of our existence. Whereas most of the time, the ego just wants us to think that we're a small s cut off from the big S. And we don't need the big S for our thriving, So, um, any further thoughts?
No, thank you for clarifying that.
Excellent question. All right. So we are now going to the book, and we are in chapter 8 of the book. We're at the end of what the book has to offer in and of itself. And just a quick overview, we've done these 3 keys. We've done in chapter 3 the model of the psyche. In chapter 4, we looked at this array of mind training tools, all kinds of different things. And this will feature pretty large in my quick review of chapter 8. So we'll come back to that. Ho'oponopono, which I call cleaning, which is deleting of negative programming, very similar to atonement in A Course in Miracles. We went into some depth about that. Such a powerful tool to use as a leader to influence organizations and enterprises and divisions and teams from a distance, just by cleaning, deleting the negative programming as negative things come up. We've looked at the goals grid, where we get to map out the vertical columns, health, wealth, love, and enlightenment, against the 3 keys that we've been tracking through the book: the practical, the blueprint, and the inner genius. That grid then is a kind of a prep for the 1-page mind trainer, which we looked at in some detail, which then leads into our digital vision boards, all of which we looked at last time, and also looked at your approach to vision boards, which was very interesting. You do some really beautiful ones. Or I should say, you have a very kind of engaging and aesthetically pleasing approach to doing them. So that, in a nutshell, would be the first 7 chapters. What I'm going to do now is stop the share on this, and then go to the share of chapter 8 and just walk through the sections there real quickly, and then that'll be a wrap for today. So let's see, where is that? I'm glad this is cooperating for me today. Let me just close this for a second and make sure I got the file open. Okay, here we go. All right, so, all right, I think this is it here. All right, so chapter 8 is really all about a reminder to practice, right? To practice, to practice, to practice. I'll just read a little bit of this section that ties into the chapter from A Course in Miracles. Each chapter of the book has had something from A Course in Miracles about nightmares woven into it. So here it says, remember what was said about the frightening perceptions of little children, which terrify them because they do not understand them. If they ask for enlightenment and accept it, their fears vanish. But if they hide their nightmares, they will keep them. It is easy to help an uncertain child, for he recognizes that he does not understand what his perceptions mean. Yet you believe that you do understand yours. Little child, you are hiding your head under the cover of the heavy blankets you have laid upon yourself. You are hiding your nightmares in the darkness of your own false certainty and refusing to open your eyes and look at them. Right? So again, this really captures why we're looking at nightmares to miracles, why we go through these lessons the way we do, why we address miracle mindset in the comprehensive, multidimensional way we do, because it all provides a supportive environment for us to be able to look at our nightmares, our traumas, our pain points, the toxic things that have happened to us, and then to release them so that they're not blocking our ability to see the miracles and enjoy the miracles on the inside, right? So in therapy, which I used to do, don't do anymore quite in the same way I was trained to do it. And then in the coaching, a big part of this is looking at pain points and making it safe enough for a client to look at their pain points, right? So they can be released. Um, so I really like that this was handy and available for and as an intro to chapter 8. And then what I usually sort of encourage is the here I say 21-day miracle campaigns, but I also urge 30-day campaigns or 60-day campaigns or 90-day campaigns where we start counting in our calendar, day 1, day 2, day 3, and we do whatever the cycle is. If it's 21 days or 30 days, and then we repeat that and repeat it again to do 90 days, and then maybe we take a break and then come back, right? So in our particular case, what we're doing is we're looking at the one-page mind trainer. Everything led to the culmination in the one-page mind trainer, and then we're reviewing it over and over in terms of the different sections of it. And I recommend using from A Course in Miracles, something we did earlier in this year's the lesson 77, which says, "I am entitled to miracles." And so I have clients who use that as a kind of overall overarching guide tone for their campaigns, and they use that to start every day. I'm entitled to miracles. I am entitled to miracles. They get into the mindset of that. And that is with regard to the goals, right? So whether they're health goals or wealth goals, love, relationship goals, whatever they are, the things that we're desiring, the things that we want to have manifest, we're entitled to miracles in all those things and all the practicalities of getting those things done. And then the next part of our scheme here is about doing some real deleting of the negative programming, right? So spending some time on a daily basis deleting negative programming. And then we have all the other things that I mentioned in passing from chapter 4. There's affirmations, there are guided meditations, there are hypnosis programs, there are subliminals, there are triliminals. I kind of make up my own smoothie of these things for each campaign, and I'll just go like there's amazing subliminals and triliminals to attract money and clients. Um, I'll just immerse myself in those. I'll make referrals to clients on those things. They're free on YouTube. You can look for them and find them. There's just a ton of stuff. I can do it with cleaning up relationship stuff from the past, strengthening one's current relationships, or preparing. There's a favorite one I like from hypnosisdownloads.com. I recommend to people a lot. It's Finding Your Soulmate. And that's a hypnosis program. I think it's a great one to set people up to attract the right person over time. And so that's it in a nutshell. It's just about having some daily kind of regimen to practice all the different things we've been talking about in a multidimensional, holistic, subtle, nuanced, comprehensive way. So any thoughts, any reactions at this point to anything? I'm going to close this out in terms of the share.
All right. No, I love that. you've included so many practical applications. I think that's perfect. And at the end of each of these shows, we love to kind of challenge the viewers to do something practical. So this is kind of the same thing at the end of your book. And it's convenient that you have that one-page mind trainer because it's like a very digestible format to see everything that you've worked toward and all the all the tools you can apply in one place. So I think that's awesome, and it gives people a very clear direction on what to do and how to continue after everything they've learned. So yeah, if you haven't already, this book is impressively encapsulates everything in his course with the same title, Nightmares to Miracles. So this is like kind of, I guess, like a longer form, self-guided, because it takes you longer to read the book, frankly, just for that alone, but longer form self-guided experience to kind of learn the same principles and all of this. So excellent value for what you get with this book. But the course is also great because it's more interactive. So yeah, if you want to have the steps to kind of transforming this reality, then this is like a really great way to do it.
Thank you. Thank you for the call to action there, the input. I love it. Yeah, it's in the next 3 months, we'll do a little bit more enrichment for the book. We finished the actual chapters, but I'll highlight some themes that I think are available in the book. One thing that's funny to me about the book is that I will sometimes forget things I wrote in the book. So I have to stay with it. I have to keep looking at it and rereading it because I'll be like, I don't even remember what I really said in chapter 4. I mean, I know what chapter 4 is about. I know what each chapter is about, but I don't remember what I wrote. Let me go read it again. So we'll do a little bit of a revisiting about some things. I think I want to highlight what I'm saying in the book about atonement, which comes from A Course in Miracles. But I think that's really important for a number of different reasons. And there'll be a few other things that we'll revisit and highlight in the next 3 months to round out the year. So I'm already looking forward to that. But thank you for what you just said about the book being a concise representation of sort of what I think is my best, what I have to offer, the best I have to offer. Great. So that's it for today. That's all I have for us. And any final thoughts from your end, Brittany?
No, I think you shared on the screen some of these call to actions, and we took our time going through this book throughout this year. So if you feel compelled to, you should. If you've been following along, you should have everything you need to kind of start doing these daily practices, and that could be your call to action for today. To create a regimen if you haven't already. Start with a 21-day challenge, 21 days to start a habit, they say, some people say. If you can make it to 90 or make it a daily part of your routine as long as possible, that's great. So we want to challenge you to do that today. But otherwise, thanks, Dave, for today's lesson and reflection, and I look forward to the enrichment as well as we continue on.
Thank you so much for the call to action. I appreciate it. And thanks to our audience for being with us. I know there are very specific people who tune in regularly now to what we do, either as the podcast or the blog or the video version. So slowly, there is an emerging community behind us who look forward to what we have to offer. And we're grateful to you. Brittany and I are both grateful to you. Yeah, very much.
Thank you so much. And thanks again, Dave. And I guess I'll see you next month.
Yeah, thank you, Brittany, for a great show. And I'm looking forward to our August 2023 show. Thank you.
Bye likewise. Okay, bye. Bye.